Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. As always, thank you so very much for sharing your time with me. It means the whole wide world. Today I'm going to do a book haul, which I have actually been meaning to do for quite a while. I've accumulated more books than I wanted to accumulate because originally the plan was to not buy any books in 2021. I have technically succeeded. A lot of the books, well, no, I haven't. I can't even say I've technically succeeded because I have not succeeded. However, many of the books in this haul were Christmas gifts. So this is going back from the end of December 24th, 25th, up until today. And I actually ended up only selecting half of the books because I believe I have 15 or 16 books here. And that's only half of the books I purchased this year. Okay, another quick caveat though, so it makes it more bearable and I'm not spending that much money because books are expensive, we all know this. I predominantly, I'd say 90% of my books are secondhand. They're thrifted. I constantly go to my favorite bookshop near my home. The man that runs it has my heart, I will say it every single time. So I buy most of my books from him and like one book will be $3. Canadian dollars, so that's even less in US dollars. So you know what? I don't feel that bad. You know, it's like people have a daily coffee, I have a daily book. Anyway, okay, so let's get into it. Before though, I would like to say that the lovely Noelle Gallagher did a book haul very recently. So if you haven't seen that, which you most definitely have, but if you haven't, please watch it. She, you know, we all know how I feel about her. I love her. Her content is phenomenal always, so give that a go as well if you want another book haul. So, okay, let's do it. First book I will be talking about is Miami by Joan Didion. Look at that coda. I feel like it kind of goes, no it doesn't really. I was going to say it kind of goes with my, well maybe it goes with my bedroom and my clothing. Does that matter? Absolutely not. So let's get into it. I got this. Do you care to know where I got this? This was a thrift. I thrifted this one and it, from what I've understood from the little flap, is that this book kind of analyzes Miami and its deeply, I was going to say deeply rooted roots, but that is just not good enough. But how deeply intertwined Miami is with Cuban roots, considering they're already, like, they're geographically so close, but there's just a very rich history in regards to why those two cultures overlap. I feel like that's a very vague description of it, but that's really the only description that I needed in order to be intrigued by this. I think that's very interesting. I like to read, well, I haven't read very many like this, but I like the concept of reading about cities or places in the USA and acknowledging the roots and influences that the USA has had from Black culture, Latin American culture, etc. I think that's very, very interesting. So I'm excited to read this, and I hear raving things about Joan Didion, and I've never read anything. So let this be the first one. The next one I want to read, which I've been eyeing for quite a while, but I didn't want to spend the money on it, and then I found it at the thrift store. Can I call it a thrift store? The secondhand bookstore that I always go to. If you don't know, now you know. Eat, Pray, Love is a treasured book of mine. I love it very much. I resonate very deeply to that story. And the author is Elizabeth Gilbert, and she has another book called Big Magic. So I have to read it, you know? It's one of those things where you love a book so much, you can't not give that book the respect it deserves by reading whatever else the author has released. But there's also a certain trepidation. I'm almost certain that's the right word, but I got over eager, and maybe it's the wrong word. No, I think there is a bit of trepidation reading another book by the author that wrote one of your favorite books. Do you follow what I'm saying? Because I love Eat, Pray, Love so much, so the standard is already too high, you know? So it can be tough going into this, but nevertheless, I'm very excited. Creative Living Beyond Fear. Kind of cheesy, but I've heard great things. Lena Norms on YouTube. She is one of my favorite influences. I think she has, like, gold spews out of her mouth every time she records a video, and she really liked this, so That's all I really needed to know, so I'm very excited. Then I have two classics, which is kind of embarrassing to say that I've ever read either of these, but I will fix that, so don't even worry about it. I will fix it. And I also thrifted these. They were $3.50 each, so bargain. No big deal. And that is Animal Farm in 1984 by George Orwell. This one is so cool. Can you see that? That is a phenomenal cover. And the backs are really simple. And just, I really like them. I really, really like them. The copies that are at our big, like, chapters in Indigo are not the greatest. And they're also, what, $25? So that's okay. Not for this baby, I'm not paying that. At least not at this current state. And at least not in this current state of... Why can't I speak English? Anyway, regardless, thrifted them. Super excited to read them. They're very little, so I have no excuse. I have to read them. I will read them. Perfect. Okay, this video is already so long and I've barely said anything. Okay, it's alright. The next two books are two books I didn't pay a dime for because they were wonderfully gifted by my father. And the first one is We Are Legion, We Are Bob by Dennis E. Taylor. Guys, I have never read a science fiction in my life, and my father is a science fiction nerd. He loves it. That is his jam. That is his genre. That man would be so happy if aliens descended upon this earth and abducted him. He would truly be elated. So he bought me this book because he knew that I wouldn't personally buy it. I think he listened to it on Audible. I think it's an Audible original, maybe. Anyway, but he was like, you need to try it, and then if you don't like it, then he'll stop telling me to read a science fiction, which I think is a totally fair halfway point. So I will. I don't know when, but I will read this. I will read this. I gotta see what it's like. Then we have another book that my dad recently read and he really, really liked it. So he purchased a copy for myself and for my brother. A fun tidbit of information for those of you that do not know. My father's name is Hector. My brother's name is Hector. And this book is called Hector and the Search for Happiness by François Lelord. Ooh! Pulling out the French gun, haven't used that in a while. Anyway, my dad really liked it, and again, that's all I really need to know because I make my dad read all the books that I love, so it seems only fair that I read the books that he likes. And this one is also a little baby one, so I'm sure I'll breeze through it. Breeze? We're struggling. We're struggling today. It's okay. It's okay. We're gonna move on. Even though I can't move on, we're moving on. That's this one. I'm very excited. Then we have, I don't really need to say much about it. Other than that, it's The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. We've all heard about this, right? I'm sure we all have. I own Beloved. And I feel like this is sacrilege to admit on the internet, but I tried reading Beloved, when was it? Many months ago now. And I don't know if it was just because I knew it was going to be a really heavy read. I started it and I ended up putting it down because I couldn't bring myself to read it. That's not to say I will not read it. I will read it. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And that one, I paid full price for it. And then I saw this one today, actually, at the secondhand bookstore. And I was like, say no more. Add to cart. And yeah, honestly, the main reason well, no, that's not the main reason, but one of the reminders that I was like, oh yeah, that's a book I'm interested in reading, is because my friend Veronica mentioned that she read this in high school, I believe, and she really, really loved it. So when she said that, I was like, thank you for reminding me. And then the universe worked in sync with that and put it right in front of my eyeballs when I entered the bookshop. So I got it. Alright guys, I need to speed this up. I'm talking too slowly, or really it's just maybe the fact that I'm really struggling with the English language today, and that's just, you know, slowing down this process. The next one is Just Kids by Patti Smith. This is another book that I've just heard really great things about, and I want to know what I'm missing. This is just one of those books that that's kind of just it. I frankly have no idea what this is about. I assume Patti Smith just being a kid. Oh... Next. Then I have a collection of poems by Mary Oliver. This is her book Devotions, which is the selected poems of Mary Oliver. I have been considering reading Mary Oliver for quite some time. I feel like I'm going to say this for every single book that I talk about, but it's the truth. However, she has so many promising books, and the covers are beautiful, the descriptions look beautiful, the titles themselves look beautiful, and I was just like, ugh. I'm stumped. Like, I don't know which one to buy, and then I realized that I can get a sneak peek into a ton of her books, if not all of her books, and figure out which one I kind of resonate with the most, and then from there I can buy the individual one if I choose to do so. So I'm really, really excited. I've only read the first like 3 or 4 to just kind of get, you know, a little taste. And wow. I loved it. So much so that I ran to my mom's room. I was like, Mom, can I read you these? And she also really loved them. If we have suddenly changed frame, let's please ignore it because my SIM card ran out of memory, so I had to fix that. And I tried my very best to keep it the same, but anyway, if it did move, let's pretend it didn't, please. I think the last thing I was trying to say is that my mom and I both loved, I believe you can sometimes find these on the internet. If you can, please look up the one called This Morning. My mom and I both really, really loved that one. So yeah, that's Devotions by Mary Oliver. The next 2 I have are actually in Spanish, which is very exciting. And the first one is Como Agua para Chocolate by Laura Esquivel. So that's this one. I am gonna blank on what this is called in English. I think it's actually just a literal translation, like water for chocolate. I'll likely put it on the screen for you. So yeah, when my mom was in Mexico, I asked her if she could get this for me at the library. At the bookstore. And she did. She brought it home. And now it's here with me. So I'm really excited. The second one I have was a Christmas present, a belated Christmas present from Hannah. For those of you that don't know, Hannah is one of my best friends. And that is El Arroyo de la Llorona by Sandra Cisneros. So last year I read The House on Mango Street and absolutely loved it. Again, it was just a story that had a lot of representation for a young Mexican girl. But specifically, I mean, not that our situation paralleled completely, because obviously they did not, but I guess a young Mexican girl in a new country, creating a new life away from their home country. So in that regard, I was like, hey, I love this, and it was beautiful. So Hannah knew that I loved it so very much, and she got me this one, which is in Spanish. It's her short stories, and I'm super excited to give it a go. Then the remainder of this list were Christmas gifts. The first one was So You've Been Publicly Shamed by Jon Ronson. I first heard Ariel Bissett speak about this, obviously, and I was immediately so intrigued because I'm terrified of cancel culture, and not in the sense that it'll happen to me, but just of the concept in general. I don't want to get too into it. You know what? That's a heavy topic, maybe for another time. I just think there definitely we kind of need to address cancel culture in some way. I think it can be very toxic and very damaging. Obviously, in certain situations, this is just a general statement. Anyway, this is a very heavy topic. Maybe this is not the best moment to get into it, but cancel culture in general is very interesting and something that I would love to learn more about, and this kind of talks about that. It talks about that. I think it's going to be a really, really brilliant nonfiction, so I'm very excited. The next one I have is another book that I am absolutely buzzing to read. Sorry, sometimes the way I say things, it takes me a second to kind of reflect on why I chose to say things the way that I did. Nevertheless, that is Stoner by John Williams. Did I say that right? Yes, I did. Stoner by John Williams. I'm really excited to read this book. I have no idea who mentioned it or how I came to know that this book existed. But from my understanding, it is this man that is studying a very dense, heavy science career. I believe it's to study agronomy. Perfect. But instead, he falls in love with English literature. That's all you need to know. Like, tell me that doesn't sound so interesting. I just want to know. I want to know it all. I want to know everything. I want to know what happens. But from what I've heard, it's a sad read. It's not a happy read. So I want to know why it's sad, you know? That's Stoner by John Williams. Then I have Pachinko, I don't know the author's name, by Min Jin Lee. I'm so excited to read this book. I had actually put this book down in my wish list for Christmas, And that is because a dear friend of mine named Kevin, he originally lived in Canada, but he now lives in Jeju in South Korea, and he loves it. Like, it is his entire world. His soul, his heart, his mind was meant to live there. So he lives there, and he's extremely happy over there, which makes me very happy. You know what? Frankly, I don't really know what this is about, but he loves this book. And we were chatting about books one day, and he was like, I really love Pachinko, and I would love if you read it. And frankly, that's all you need to tell me. If you are someone I care about, and you want me to read a book, it's over. It's done. I will read it. I don't know when, but I will read it. So, that's this one. Then I have The Memory... The Memory... Okay, sure. The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. And I feel like many people have read this book, so you probably know what it's about. From my understanding, it is like a dystopian novel, and it kind of has to do with the society, that there's people that are kind of in charge of what happens to like the lower class, or just everyone below them, and they are slowly taking things away from them, and it's small things like, I believe it's perfume, so people suddenly don't know what perfume is or don't know that it ever existed. I believe another example they give is ribbon. Things like that. So it's kind of like the government, I think, is trying to take control of society, but anyway, that's why it's called The Memory Police, I guess. I'm really, really excited to read this. This is actually my pick for March with the book club that I have with Veronica, and I'm stoked. I'm super pumped. I can't wait to read it. And the final book that I have, which I actually think I've mentioned this book before. Regardless, it's still a book that I got for Christmas, so it still applies to this haul. And that is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This book just, I don't know, it really seemed like something that I would enjoy when I want to read a memoir that makes me feel better about my life path and what I'm doing and who I am and who everyone is, and you know, a nice memoir of that sort. I'm super excited to read this. It's going to be so fun. I already know it's going to be so fun. Oh, I just flipped to a page that says recipe, scrambled eggs. Serves 2. I definitely won't be making that, but if someone in my life needs a quick recipe, I'll pass it over to you. I'm super excited to read this. Anyway, those are all the books in this haul. I will save the rest of them for another rainy day because this book is already long enough, so I don't want to hold you up even longer. Thank you for all the kindness that you have all shown me. I can't believe there's this many people watching. It's a bizarre concept, but I'm just excited to, you know, be surrounded by people that share a love of books. And I know some of my friends watch these and they don't personally read, yet they still stick around and watch me freak out and get all giddy about books. I love you. Thank you all so much for sharing your time with me. And I will see you when I see you. Bye.